henman.
Well, this is, I mean, for a guy with a serve like Roddick's got, not to have won a point on serve, dropping 3 service points, is, well, it's indescribable. I mean, it just shows what can happen in a match, however good your talents and your weapons.
Henman.
Not a bad position to be in, is it? Just quietly resolute Henman has been throughout this tiebreak, not giving an inch. 5 match points, set points. No problem at all, is it? Taking a tiebreak 7-1. It is set all, and Henman has done an exceptional job to get out of jail. I wonder if our talent in the studio there, Chris and Mark, would agree.
Yes, thanks, Bill. Nice to be called talent. Hey, Petch. Mark Petchy here with me in the studio. I think what Tim has done so far, Mark, is handle the obvious frustration he must have been feeling in sets 1 and 2 with having the early breaks in both of them.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when you look at it, he actually could have won this match fairly routinely. I think from that point of view, he certainly had the better of Roddick in the opening set. But the American shows that he's not just a great tennis player, but he's also such a good competitor. But you have to like Henman's chances, not only because he's improved his first serve percentage as Roddick has, but also in the back of his mind right now, he must be thinking back to the Washington match, as is Roddick, where he had a match point there, the American, and didn't manage to win it. He's had a match point there in the second set. He hasn't won it. So I still feel as though Henman's certainly in the driving seat as we go into this third set. But it has been it's kind of been a bitty match.
Bitty.
Neither, they haven't sort of gelled at the right time.
Roddick's theory coming out here was to be aggressive, to come to the net and to try and take the net away from Henman. He didn't want to get bogged down at the back as much as he did maybe against Vince Spader in Scottsdale when he lost to Spader in the semi-finals. Do you think he has been aggressive enough, Roddick, at the moment?
No, I don't think on the first serve in particular. I think he could have served and volleyed a little more. I think he's allowed Henman to play his game, to be able to just block the ball back into court. And I've seen a couple of interesting shots of Paul Anico at times, looking a little frustrated perhaps that Tim's missed certain shots where he feels they almost get that ball into court, force Roddick to make the pass. But yeah, I think the American definitely needs to get himself into the net a little bit behind some of these first serves, and you know, just make his life on his serve just a little bit easier, because certainly Henman is getting to a lot of Roddick service games.
Absolutely. Still a glorious day at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. We've been asking for your text messages during this match. Thank you to one and all who've been texting in. Continue to do so. We'll try and deal with as many of them after the match. Text tennis and your message to 84401. Text costs 25p. Network charges may vary. Ryan from Bournemouth feels that Henman's going to lose because he's put money on him, therefore he's doomed. Let's hope that Ryan is not correct. Dorothy's liking Henman's movement and speed around the court.
Take a seat quickly, please. Thank you.
OK, let's go back for the third set and rejoin Barry and Bill.
Well, this match always
Take any seat, please. Ready. Thank you.
Had the possibility of being a really classic tight encounter, and that's how it's proving. Roddick had the one match point. Wonder just how much that is preying on his mind.
Lovely change.
He's on a bit of a roll, Henman. Certainly a magnificent tie-break he played. Solid. But this is a game which is extremely important for him to hold. There is that shot again. Whenever he's produced that, not whenever, but really quite often, it's been a magnificent shot. And it's worthwhile, Henman really reading it, that it is likely to come. It is just a masterly touch. The half-volley drop shot, perhaps requiring the softer hands and the incredible ability.
He's produced it all today from the net, Henman. Drop volleys, lunging volleys, high volleys. He's able to manufacture it. In fact, make it look very easy. And that's hard to do.
Well played, beautifully. This is a beautiful game. And Henman is doing just that. You can't call Roddick's game beautiful, but my golly, it's effective. That's right. Put it anywhere near Henman, and you are likely to suffer, Roddick, really.
Well, what you've got to admire players at the net, they've got a split second to think. Henman knows that Roddick's going to go cross-court with the pass, but he's also got the reactions as well.
Now that is the serve that has been lacking throughout this match. It's happened very, very rarely. But as I mentioned before, when he played Wayne Arthurs, it happened almost whenever he wanted it.
Game, Henman.
That's what's required.
First game,
Good
final
start.
set. New balls, please.
Well, it was imperative that Henman won that game. Down love 30. After having the initiative from the tiebreak where he saved match point, didn't want to throw it away. And now he's in a great chance to really hammer it home, and this is such a big game. Roddick needs to stop the rot. And I'm sure if he misses a couple of first serves, Henman will be looking to attack the net.
Couldn't get round to that, Henman, because Roddick hit it
15 up.
nice and deep.
But again, Henman enabling Roddick to play an extra ball, and that counts.
13
Might not count now, but it will count later on in the match when the pressure is really on.
Side spin on it. Henman ignores the side spin. Beautiful pass.
That's a stunning shot from Roddick. The power he's able to get, leaning backwards. That's pure timing.
30.
Oh, creamy. Gosh, that was something else, like a bullet.
Cheers.
Well, earlier on in the game, Roddick approached down the line, got past. Henman, I think, knew that he was going to approach the back and he was ready, waiting. Again, he clips the line.
Saw the gap. Confident shot.
Advantage, Roddick.
A punishing play from Andy Roddick. Henman couldn't have done anything more there on that point.
Game, Roddick. 1 game on.
Set all, 1-all. And a measure of shade across this court, which will be welcome for the players. Yeah, no problem.
15 love.
Well, Henman won a mental battle here. Roddick's backing off on that second pass.
That's bad luck on Henman because the net cord just sat it up for Roddick. These things happen.
15 all.
It's actually one of the rare occasions today that Roddick has used that big forehand. It's largely due to the quality of Henman's ground shots.
Oh, brilliant backhand pass that.
15, 30.
Well, superb tennis, isn't it? Again, both players playing their part in it.
Henman trapped halfway to the net. It was a very good get by Andy Roddick, wide to the forehand.
30 all.
In fact, Bill, start of this third set, there have been very few unforced errors. All the points have been decided by winners. I think that just shows the quality of the tennis that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it sure does. Very impressive. Henman's serve is a lot better, more secure, more first serves in. He's just there, Rock of Gibraltar, isn't he? Must be so depressing for Roddick, almost wherever he hits it.
14, 30.
Henman seems to have anticipated and plays a solid volley.
As soon as you get pushed this far back and Henman's at the net, there's only one answer. That's a winning point for Tim Henman.
Oh, look, it happens on the backhand, it happens on the forehand. We don't want to go overboard, but I mean, it really is wonderful play by Henman then.
April. It's crunch time. The quarter-finals of the Heineken Cup and the last weeks of the Zurich Premiership. Ryder Cup year, and the golf season is in full swing. It's hotting up in the Caribbean as England's tour continues, and the atmosphere around the Pakistan v India series is electric. But it's cool in Glasgow for the kings of the queue. Then there's the Lord of the Ring, the hitman Ricky Hatton. The word is April on Sky Sports.
The clock is already ticking, and you can't be late.
This is Bauer.
If you missed the start, now you can go back to the beginning.
This is Bauer.
If you don't know Jack, this is your chance to get acquainted.
This is Bauer.
We're turning back the clock to bring you hours 4, 5, and 6 back to back. It's back to back Jack. Catch up with all new 24, Sunday from 9, Sky One Mix.
Well, the players are showing absolutely no sign of tiredness or frustration or annoyance, or it's just an incredibly good, skillful match, this. And most of the touch skills, in fact almost all the touch skills, have come from Henman, and the power skills very often from Roddick.
Well, we've been marvelling at the standard of the match, but I always think the best tennis matches are the ones you've got the contrast in styles.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we have that today.
Please take your seats at the back of the court. Thank you.
So Henman served first in this final set, and therefore he is, with no breaks, he's always a single game ahead at the change. And it behoves him, Roddick, to draw level. 1-2. Got a bit cramped for that backhand pass, or attempted pass.
Left. Versus. Sportchilla.
I'm afraid to say we've lost the pictures at the moment. We will try and regain them as soon as possible. I do have the ability to just keep you up to date with what's going on via a computer, some live scores. So at the moment, Roddick with 40-15 on serve. There he is. Just stay with it here to see if Roddick can hold. Apologies for the lack of pictures once more. We've got them back up as soon as possible. Henman drifting it long. And we're locked at 2 games apiece. Are we edging ever closer to a final set tiebreak? Let's go back to our commentary team, Barry Cowan and Bill Threlfall.
Well, we don't want to miss any more of this, do we? I mean, this is something else, this match, and level pegging, set all, 2 all. Serve has certainly got more secure. That wide serve is going in pretty regularly.
He's in a purple patch on his serve, Henman. 3/4 of his first serves are going in.
Close, worth a long look from Roddick.
As well, we talk about the first serve, but the quality of the second serve as well. It kept him in certain games when he was looking in trouble.
Don't envy the job of the coach, fighting every point with his player.
40-15.
Apologies once again for the line going down. We will try and get back to Indian Wells as soon as possible. This is the first time really that this has happened to us in our live coverage from the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. If you have just come in from a night out, it's very close indeed between Tim Henman and Andy Roddick. Roddick took the first set on the tiebreak. Henman was a break up there in the first set, lost it, went to break up, lost the tiebreak. Henman was also a break up in the second set, lost that, but then responded nicely by taking the set on the tiebreak. So 2 games all. Henman now 40-30. Let's go back to our commentary team, Barry Cowan and Bill Threlfall.
Well, a lob there, just too low, really. And Roddick, 6'2" and athletic, gets it with no problem at all. It's getting close in this game. 40-30, still a game point for Henman. That is incredibly bad luck. I mean, it just sits there and begs, please pass Henman with this ball. That is tough.
Well, you don't get any favours from these nets in America. They just sit up. Benefit for Andy Roddick.
Vast majority of first serves going in here. Impressive. Good wide serve too. Very good service game. What do you think, Barry, what do you think Henman's done to adjust his serve for this? It's so much more impressive at the moment. Is it pure concentration, you think?
No, I just think he, having broken to go up 3-2 in the first set, he just hit a bit of a rocky patch. And I just think he got out of rhythm and he kept hitting his serve, and it sort of got worse and worse. When I think he sort of, when you miss 3 or 4 in a row, I think it's good to actually just take a little bit of pace off it, build up that confidence again. I think that's what happened towards the end of the first set, and once you got the confidence back, you then got the belief to just keep hitting it and keep hitting it. And that's exactly what Henman's done. And the last serve that Henman hit, the kick serve, that's the one he used a lot last year. But with his more positive approach, I think it's more beneficial when you use it sparingly, because it catches your opponent by surprise, and it certainly caught Andy Roddick by surprise on that last point.
Yeah, I feel he's reined in the first and second serve slightly, and it may be the slight change of pace has affected Roddick, because when that happens, the opponent can hit the ball a bit too early, expecting it faster. Henman, looking as though he's in a practice match here, is serving for the semi-final here in the first TMS of the year. It's just like somebody poured butter on these shots, really. It's too good for a description. It's just like oil. Another difficult backhand volley into the body.
Roddick looks to beat a man, but Henman can't think ahead. He has to play each point as it comes.
Absolutely. It's going to be difficult for the coaches to... Okay, 30 love, 2 points away from victory. Oh, it was a wonderful return of serve off a very good serve. And yet the volley never looked like going anywhere but in. There are 3 match points for Britain's #1 player, and this would be a magnificent win over the US Open if he gets it. The US Open champion, the man who's been #1 in the world recently, is right on the brink. Well, that was a good return in the sense that it was so deep.
But if you look at his body language, Bill, it's not of a person who believes he can turn this round.
It isn't, is it? Surprising, really. I mean, Agassi would have coped with that ball on the half volley on the baseline, but it was a very, very difficult shot to get back. 2 match points remain. That'll do it. Henman has done it in fantastic style. The crowd rise. Roddick, as always, a very sporting loser. And that is some win by Tim Henman. It really is. He faced a match point, which Roddick had, and he turned it round and won the match, and he's in the semi-final.
Well, it's only so fitting that Tim Henman wins the match on a winner, because it was that good a performance from Henman. The third set was absolutely flawless tennis. And here's a man in Tim Henman who's looking good for this week.
Andy Roddick said after his loss to Vince Spady in Scottsdale he should go, well, he'd go back to the drawing board. I think he might go back to the drawing board once more after this loss to Tim Henman. Henman signs his way into the semi-finals, and we'll have both of those live for you tomorrow. As usual, Sky Sports Extra, the time 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Roger Federer against Andre Agassi, a dream semi-final lineup, that one. Then Tim Henman will be second on against either Irakli Labadze or James Blake. We'll have highlights of that Labadze-Blake match at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening on Sky Sports Extra. But Tim Henman is through to the semi-finals again of a Masters series. Mark Petchey's here with me in the studio. Just incidentally, we will hear from Tim Henman in about 4 or 5 minutes' time, so do stay with us to hear the reaction of the British #1. Petch, let's just absorb what we saw there. It was a gritty performance. It could have been easier.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when Tim comes off, he'll probably feel as though he could have actually wrapped it up in a couple of sets the way that he was playing. I feel as though, to be honest, throughout the whole of the match, he was the better player. He maybe at times it didn't look that way when Roddick had the match point in the second set, but I really felt as though he had the measure of Roddick. And I think Roddick, you know, as you said, after the Spady loss, said he wanted to go back to the drawing board. I think there were still elements in the match today, where Brad Gilbert won't be happy about how his charge went about trying to play against Tim Henman.
Now, we always thought the serve would play a major part. Clearly, Roddick, one of the best servers in the game. Henman, one of the best sort of serve and volleyers in the game. You've picked out some interesting analysis that we haven't really talked about before. Yeah,
I think Henna's serve, we talk a lot about it, and we talk about how the double faults at times, and we just take through this one. I think a couple of interesting things on Henna's second serve is at times, that looks a beautiful position that he gets into here. This is in the opening game, nothing wrong with this. And he's getting up to the ball using legs. Now, if you run it on, just look at where Tim goes with his second serve. You know, there's a tendency to fall down. You see how crouched he is at the bottom of that, rather than sort of pushing up into it and using the legs, as Andre Agassi has been said. And that was the double fault. This for me is a serve that he's redeveloped again. The one out wide. Again, we got it in there. Look at the way that the body's been going into the court there. And he had lost the serve out wide to the back end on the ad side a little bit. And Paul Annacone definitely is focused on that particular serve. And as we see there, and we just run it on, better position by him, and he's waiting for the cross-court return, doesn't need it. It was the perfect serve. The one coming up from Roddick, I think, again, is just a great illustration of how biomechanically it's such a good serve in terms of where his body weight is going. Look at the extension he gets off the ground. I mean, full extension in terms of the height. And then if you run that one on as well, look at that, an absolute bullet out wide. And again, the body weight and the whole motion going into the court. I think the last one that I picked out off the second serve, and in particular when I think about his head-to-head record with a guy like Hewitt, again, a perfect second serve, that one. You look at the arc, the height over the net that he's getting, and you look at where he is and where Roddick is at this point. Now, when you run it on, you just watch where Henman goes. Henman goes right to the left. You look at the gap down the line there, that you could just knock that ball into space. And in a match against Roddick, where he returned every single ball on the second serve out wide to the ad side, cross court, and Tim's waiting for the forehand or the backhand, and he dominates the point straight away. That's where I think Roddick could look at in terms of breaking Henman's serve a little bit more and think, well, if I just bang that one down the line, I'm going to get a couple of cheap points down there. I'm going to keep him a little bit more honest. I think Hewitt has that ability to do that type of thing.
When Henman falls away to the left, is it the ball toss that is causing him to fall that way, or is it the left arm that's dragging down and pulling the body weight in that direction?
I think there's a combination of two things. I think maybe the drive in the legs at times isn't ideal. And I think
not going straight up.
He's not going straight up, and kind of where you want the ball to go. It's kind of drifting over this way, and I think that has a knock-on effect that it kind of brings your left arm down quite quickly, which in turn brings it down. And I'm talking about the 2 or 3% that you're looking for when you're serving on a big point, when you're looking for that big second serve out wide against somebody like an Agassi who's returning great on the particular day. And when you're drifting over that way all the time, it's tough to get, I think, a heavy hit on the ball, because your weight's going this way and you're not getting all your weight into the serve like that. And a couple of times, you know, it came down. But having said that, after the first set, I mean, he did serve superbly well, and really, for the most part, apart from the one break in the second set, shut Roddick out.
I was going to say, this, to a degree, when he wasn't serving well in the first set, was a little bit of a litmus test that to stay with his, not the new serving, but the aggressive style that he started to play with. If he'd have second-guessed that, as at times maybe he's done in the past, he would have maybe fallen back into the trap of just trying to take some pace off and going for a little bit more consistency.
It puts more pressure on his ground strokes. I think that's the key factor. When he starts not going for his first serve, he starts having to hit a lot more groundies, and Roddick at the back of the court, you know, can hit the heavy forehand, the really big shots. And I think that's where Tim has got a lot of confidence from Paul Annacone, saying, yeah, bad serving first set, was I think sub 50%, but really did hit the serve consistently throughout the match. I think we saw one serve there, didn't we, at 137.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point there was, I think we both felt there was a serve that potentially was even quicker than that. You know, he's getting back up there. I always said after the shoulder injury, it was going to take time for him to generate pace, because it's a technique and a timing thing at the end of the day. When you've been serving one way for a long time, to suddenly try and bang down big serves when you've been hitting kickers, it's tough to actually get the timing off the racket.
Host broadcast at the moment still having their chat, their few minutes with Tim Henman on the court, but we will have the British #1, an interview for you, hopefully very, very shortly indeed. The return was always going to be a factor, Petch, especially for Henman with the big serving of Andy Roddick. He did handle the bombs pretty effectively.
Very well. And I think if you look at a video of this match afterwards, Roddick may have a few lessons to learn, but having said that, I mean, again, this is where Henman is so good. But this is the movement as well. I mean, the movement, not only getting the ball back, and I think it discouraged Roddick to a certain degree to actually get himself into the net, all the time.
There's a Henman speed again. has been working so hard on that over the years to be able to get to balls, and he felt that was going to be a factor as well. And there's the chip and charge, and automatically that again puts Roddick on the back foot.
Something, again, I didn't feel as though Roddick did particularly well was mix up his second, try and go to the henman forehand. This, to me, is where Roddick still needs to learn. Look at these 2 points here. Henman, with the block return, great hands, just getting the ball back into play, doesn't try and do too much early on. Roddick gets himself in a dogfight in a pressure situation, and Henman takes care of it. He's lost the initiative with the big serve where the ball's just floating back. He could have had an easy volley on top of the net. Henman takes charge, and as we saw throughout the course of the match, wonderful play.
Which is something he said that he wanted to readjust in the match here.
Yeah, and that point there, look at this one. I mean, that return from Henman is mid-court with nothing on it, just gets the ball back in play, is able to sort of scamper around at the back of the court, throw up a good defensive lob. It has to be said, there's big pressure on this smash, and Roddick unable to convert. But had Roddick served and volleyed on those 2 points, I mean, he didn't need to volley well. He would have just been able to slot things away. And that's the crunch time in a match. And I think he bottled it to a certain degree. I bet if you ask Brad Gilbert right now, he's saying, well, what would you have done? You've been talking about this for a week. Yeah, I would have liked to
doing it on the practice court as well, and then not putting what you've been learning in practice or trying to implement in practice into the match situation.
Which isn't easy to do, let's be honest. What you practice and getting out there in a match, and that's why it's so difficult to transfer it. But that ultimately will be the key for Roddick against people like Henman in making his life just a little bit easier on serve. He's still going to struggle to break when Tim's serving at his best.
But in the semi-final, I mean, it's a golden opportunity when you look at who he could meet tomorrow, James Blake or Irakli Labadze. I mean, more than likely it will probably be James Blake, who I don't think he's ever lost to before.
Well, I think we can't write off Labadze. I think he's beaten Blake the last couple of times. So I think, I mean, it could be either of these two. And I think he beat, as you say, he's got a head-to-head record over Blake, 1-0. They played in America, getting a good sign in Toronto, actually Canada, it was in Toronto. But I actually think, again, he matches up well against James Blake because he knocks enough balls into court that James Blake can self-destruct if he's not hitting a lot of big winners. I mean, he's got to think that he's going to be...
It's no gimme, but it's a goal. It's a good opportunity.
It's a great opportunity. But he's earned this opportunity as well. This is a fabulous win over a top 10 player in Andy Roddick, and difficult to beat him in his home soil. So that, from that point of view, yes, he had a good draw up to this stage, but, I mean, a fabulous result today. And again, this is what he needs as well, just to emphasise that what he's doing with Paul Annacone, almost going back to where he needs to do, to where he was, it's validation of everything that he's believing in right now.
Absolutely. Let's hear from the British number one now. He's with Kate Robinson.
Tim, you stayed very focused after a first set in which you had a few chances.
Yeah, I did. You know, I think it was pretty good quality tennis, but I felt like the service game that I ended up losing to Andy when he broke me, I felt a little bit that I lost it, and he hit some good shots, don't get me wrong, but I felt like if I just, you know, maintained my level and perhaps raised it in certain areas, I still was in the match. And yeah, it's disappointing to lose a tight tiebreak, but you know, I stuck in there and you know, managed to squeak out a pretty tight second set and then played a really good third.
Did play a good third set, Tim Henman. That really was where it was. It was a scrappy opening 2 sets, but he did raise his level admirably in the third.
It was the best set out of the 3 for sure. I thought the other 2, in some ways, I guess because of the way they play, they neutralised their great play at times. But he did, and I mean, some of the passing shots he hit when Roddick did come in, again, would have disillusioned most players. Even someone like Pat Rafter would have been thinking about twice about coming in. He was cleaning up the lines. But also Tim's movement around the court. I mean, it's very difficult for players to play against. They usually expect to see holes opening up the other end when they blast one into this corner and it softens them up. But he's got lovely poise, great anticipation, such instinctive play. And again, the chip backhand so often gets him out of trouble. Nice and slow, keeps it low. The guy's got to put a little extra spin on the ball, slows it all down, gets himself in the rally. But you know, the level of belief that you see in Tim's play against someone like Roddick now is marked. You know, is a marked difference from maybe, as I said, about 2 years ago. I think he really went into this match thinking, I'm going to win it. I have a great belief in what I can achieve right now. And I think this could be the best year we see for Henman on tour that he's ever had.
We should just briefly talk about Andy Roddick, because there were 2 players out there tonight, and Roddick certainly played his part. What now for Andy Roddick? As you said before, maybe back to the drawing board with Brad Gilbert and try and take more advantage of this big first serve, the biggest serve in the world.
I think he needs to just look at how he holds it a little better. I mean, I think if you look at Agassi, he holds his serve so great. Against certain types of players as well, I think we need to quantify that. I mean, it isn't just about everything, because usually he holds on to his serve better than anybody else. but it's against people like Federer, Henman, people that have that ability to knock the ball back in a court just softly and get themselves onto a neutral setting with Roddick, is where he needs